Good day, BSSE 2, and welcome to our third online sync for the places and landscapes in the changing world. Um, Before we begin, let me just remind you that we still be having our online sync on Monday, March 1, if I'm not mistaken, it's March 1, but it's Monday, and I'm going to give you the link for our online sync. And also, I'd like to apologize from last online sync. If I wasn't able to meet you, it's because I have a special task with DepEd as one of the validators for their modules. So we were only given 3 days to accomplish everything, and I have to skip our online sync or move our online sync just to give way for DepEd. So I've already had 2 modules validated, and I am not so sure if there's a third and fourth, but definitely fourth quarter is approaching for DepEd, so we might be called again, and there might be a little bit of interruptions of our online sync, but not as much. And if ever, I still would be recording our discussions so that you'll be able to see this in our YouTube channel. And then if you would like to ask something or anything that you have in mind, you just have to write down a comment below. Okay? All right. So now before we begin, let me present first my my screen. So you'll see the PowerPoint presentation, and then from there we'll go and discuss. All right. So let me present now, and let me select. It's trying to give me a page of the presentation. All right, so this is it. Let me open my screen. And all right, so let's talk about now population and migration. So this is not uncommon that we talk about population and migration, but since we're dealing with a discussion towards how and why there are surge of population all throughout the world, and what are the causes also of migration, why people are moving from one place to another. Okay, so basically that's everything that we will talk about. It's about how population grows exponentially, and then it's migration as well. No? Okay, all right, so the first question is, where are population distributed? Now, population distribution means the pattern of where people live. World population distribution is uneven. Places which are sparsely populated contain few people. Places which are densely populated contain many people. So from this definition, you'd be able to make a reference in our country. If you take a look at the Philippines, you'd be able to see where are the densely populated areas and where are the areas that is not populated that much, right? So if you talk about Luzon, we have the center, the Metro Manila. It's quite compressed and it's really densely populated. If you talk about Visayas, the best example would be Cebu. Cebu is densely populated. And if you talk about Mindanao, we have Davao, right? Now, new statistics provides an information that, of course, it's part also of the plan of the government to make way of other places to develop and to be urbanized. So we are trying to declutter what we have in the major areas who are condensedly populated, and we're trying to move as much as possible some of the basic factors why people are attracted to these places, so that population also will decrease because of its internal migration. Say, for example, if we wanted to industrialize other places, like here in Mindanao, then people from other places, maybe in Visayas or in Luzon, might be attracted to the new industries offered by these places. That way, our cities would be not that even, but at least it will give us room for something to breathe, room for another way to live with our environment sustainably. Okay, but in the world, we'll be presenting later a map, and then you'll be able to see what are the places in our planet that are very condensedly populated, and of the areas that has less population. Okay. All right. So next, population distribution. The way in which people are spread across a given area is known as population distribution. Geographers study population distribution patterns at different scales. So there are geographers who are trying to provide information on the population distribution in local manner. We also have regional and national, and we have global. So in local manner, here in Mindanao, there are people who are working with the population distribution, but it's institutionalized. We have the National Statistics Authority who actually checked the populations of every locality here in Butuan or in Caraga region or in the entire Mindanao. This way, the country can monitor the growth of its population, maybe quarterly, maybe annually. All right. Also, local and regional offices of the NSA would coordinate to the national level to get the accumulated number of the population distribution in the Philippines. And in global sense, we are being compared also to quite a lot of countries who have an exponential growth of the population. In fact, Southeast Asia is considered to be the 5th largest region in the world to have quite a lot of number of the population, right? So we're basically next from Europe. So that's quite alarming, especially for the countries like the Philippines, who have quite problems with supporting its population. The depletion of our environment causes problem to the growing number of people living in our place. And that could cause a lot of trouble, especially with our scarce resources. Our government are trying to provide supplements on the lack of resources that we have. But that would also mean that the people might sacrifice a lot of things because we're pushing ourselves to the limits, because we are not actually taking care of our environment, to be fair. That's why we're having problems with shortages, with food supplies and higher prices, inflation rates, especially in this time of pandemic. We are seeing a lot of prices going up. It's because of resources problem. Our economy is actually in downward slope because it affected a lot of industries, local and national, to produce the products that we have been producing when the pandemic hit the Philippines, right? Anyways, let's move on. Now, patterns of population distribution tend to be uneven. For example, in the UK, there are more people living in the southeast England than in Wales. Now, population density. Population density is the average number of people per square meter or kilometer. It is a way of measuring population distribution and shows whether an area is sparsely or densely populated. If I'm going to ask you from where you are right now and from the place that you're living in, can you probably tell that your area is still sparsely populated or densely populated? From where I'm living now, I would say that we are densely populated because there are no big spaces anymore from our place to the neighbor, right? But if you're living in rural places where your house is surrounded with maybe your farm, surrounded with trees, maybe you are surrounded with other natural resources in your house. If you're reaching another home, then that would mean that you are living in a sparsely populated area. Okay, so just try to check to whether your area per square kilometer is densely or maybe sparsely populated. If daghan gani mong silingan, if makadungog mo nga magsige sila og video, okay, or makadungog mo nga nag-away yung silingan, no? That means that you are living in a densely populated area. But if you're living in a sparsely populated area, what you can hear probably is that the sound of the birds, maybe the sound of the streams or the river, or the sound of the natural resource that surrounded you, then you're living in that area. All right, moving on. Still again, people are unevenly distributed around the world. Population distribution is affected by environmental and human factors around the world. To tell you the least, most people are going to places who could probably provide better life or better living for an entire family. So there are internal or even external migration. The fact is that our resources could not suffice what we need and what we want, that would drive people from moving from one place to the other, right? So environmental factors, these are factors that would normally relate to economic factors. As long as the place could provide you with the basic needs that you want, then that would give you a generalization that you wanted to go this place because it will give you a better life. But you're not alone, right? There are quite a lot of people, number of people who have the same dreams with you, right? So they're moving to that places, mostly to the urban places where industries are offered and another kind of job are offered. So that's why, if you take a look, most of the Filipinos are moving internally to densely populated areas like Cebu or like Metro Manila, because these are places who can provide better jobs and better pays than of the other regional or local areas, right? Talking also about human factors around the world would mean that this area, why people are flocking in this area, because it's relatively safe and it provides them peace of mind when they are living in this area, right? So how can you probably stay in an area which is conflicted with rebellion or with terrorism? Nobody would want to have a life-threatening situation every day, right? So again, human factors around the world is considered. Apart from human factors, is that human factor that develops industries that attracts people from moving to that place is actually an example. Okay, so it has surged with population drive when BPOs are introduced in the Philippines, the call centers. So when the call centers were introduced, maybe in late 2008 or 2007 in Manila and in Cebu, a number of new graduates are actually moving to these places because of its job opportunities, and the pay is quite good and better than what is being offered from other industries. So that's one of the factors why there are exponential growth of population in that area. All right, next. Now, the map shows patterns of population, which I'll be presenting to you next to this page, of population density on a global scale. Note that areas of high and low population density are unevenly spread across the world. That is correct. And again, you've had an idea now why there are an even number of population in some areas, right? So you have an information that there are quite a lot of reasons why dili tanan na adring area o dili tanan dihapon state. Now, majority of places with high population densities are found in northern hemisphere. How man dapit? No? These are countries above us, countries who have 4 seasons, and countries who basically refer to as the New North, led by the United States, Canada, the European Unions, and Russia. All right. Okay. Anyways, let's move. So this is the map now. Try to look at the legend. Just the basic yellow, that's sparsely populated area. The darker one is moderately populated. And then this densely populated area is this area that has a lot of dots, okay? Now, if you can see, the bright yellow are actually places that nobody would want to stay. These are places that is very cold or very hot, right? So if you take a look, this is the Antarctic region, and you'll be able to see nobody would like to stay in the Antarctic region because it's too cold. And now Antarctica also is a free continent. It's because the superpower countries just agreed that this area would be an area of experiment and exploration. Other than that, nobody can actually stay there to utilize whatever resource that they can find there, especially with oil. Okay. Now there are also places that is light yellow. Some places in Africa, which we could really determine that these are areas that's not quite good for living because it's quite deserted, no water supply, nothing at all. But of course, there are still people living there, but not that populated. If you take a look at other areas, you can see a darker one, a moderate area like Mongolia, like here in Northern America, which I think this is part of, Africa, sorry, Africa. This is, this one is North America, and this one is South America. This is Africa, so this one is the desert section, this also. For North and South America, you'll be able to see there, either this is a rainforest area or a desert area. While in North America, you can see the United States is completely densely populated, while Canada is still quite a good place to situate yourself. We have Greenland above this one still. It's quite open and livable because it's not populated. Okay. Here in Asia, we have Mongolia and Russia. These are areas that's too cold and you can't really find quite a lot of resources. But if you take a look at here, you get to see a section of some part of Russia, China, and then India, and it's quite populated. Again, China leads the most populated country in the world, followed by United States. Followed by India, and then United States and some part of Europe. Okay. Yeah, that's it. The Philippines is moderately populated in some parts of the Southeast Asian region. And we have Australia, some part of Australia are densely populated, but the center of this one is sparsely populated. For some reason, it may be a desert. Doesn't have much of a resource that we can get. Okay? All right, so this is the map. As you can see, there are places that is being lived by people in an enormous amount of number, and there are also places that it's still very open because it's sparsely populated. There are just few numbers of them. All right, so it's uneven. And again, you have reasons why we have an even number of population. First is environmental factor. The second is human factor. Okay? Okay, so this is the map. All right, moving on. Now, population density of a country has very little to do with its level of economic development. For example, both Bangladesh and Japan are very densely populated, but Bangladesh is a less developed country, while Japan is most economically developed country. Again, balik ko na ako, the population density of a country has very little to do with its level of economic development. Okay, it may be because of the policies, culture, and tradition that causes these countries to set apart, right? Say for example, Japan exponentially have an economic growth after World War II because of some policies that they created and also the traditions that they have to live up to. While in Bangladesh as well, they may have reached their freedom from India maybe later after World War II. That's why they are not that developed, because they're still very new when we talk about its nationhood and probably the policies of this country and its culture and tradition. So there are quite a lot of factors why we can consider that densely populated countries doesn't have really something to say with this economic development that would tell us that it's with the people in its drive to develop matters, right? Just like the Philippines, we could consider ourselves are very abundant with resources prior to its destruction. We're supposed to be just like Japan or better than Japan, because Japan doesn't have much of that resources, unlike the Philippines, who have quite a lot of resources from oil, from any other resources that we can provide to the world, because we're very fortunate that our country lies in the equator, where it gets enough heat and rain. However, it's the people. Okay. Next, factors affecting population density. So temperate climate, example, the UK. When we say temperate climate, it's a climate that's livable, especially with the resources needed for the people to live and survive and to do economic activities. The UK is one of the best examples, right? Of course, countries lying in the equatorial part of the planet also gets the same, but again, from our discussion from the previous page, it is talking about the people's drive to develop. Next, we have low-lying flat fertile land. Example, the Bangladesh Delta. Next, good supplies of natural resources. Example, building resources. Okay, so these are just sample of the factors that could affect population density. So if you are very attractive to the people, it's because you have this kind of resources that offers better job opportunities, better land to fertile, into plant, or better supplies where your building can sustain for several years or decades. Then that would mean that it's very attractive for growth and development for that place. Okay. Okay, next. Factors discouraging settlement. What are the things that would discourage people living in a particular area? Again, we have extreme climate, just like what I said. Too cold and too hot is not livable enough for the people to stay. So we have the Sahara Desert in Africa, and we have also the Arctic and Antarctic regions in our planet that does not provide us an idea of living at all because it's too cold. But you know what? In the new north, there's a debate here that Arctic region, near the North Pole, would be the next site for economic development, led by the people of the North as well, right? So people in the United States, Canada, European Unions, and Russia, these are the countries that would like to settle the Arctic region, though that the region doesn't really have much of other resource besides oil, but they are projecting that in 2050, oil would still be the biggest factor for development. So that's why they are now on the move of trying to get settled in the Arctic region. But again, generally, no people would like to stay in a very cold area or a very hot area. All right. Next, mountainous and highland areas. Example, the Scottish Highlands. Or in Asia, we have the Mount Everest and the Himalayas mountain ranges. Nobody would like to stay in this area. Aside from it's cold, it's rocky, you won't be able to see quite a lot of plants, right, and animals that can sustain an entire civilization. So again, these are places that discourage settlement. Dense vegetation, example, the Amazon rainforest. So if you have quite thick forest, expect that these are, again, protected areas, and at the same time, these are areas that could not provide better start for industries, except for logging industries. But apart from that, this is not good for people to settle in. Okay? All right, next. Now, socioeconomic factors. Factors such as availability of jobs and comparatively high wages can contribute to high population density through migrations, like what I said. For example, in 2004, the UK has seen an influx of migrants from the countries that have recently joined the European Union, such as Poland, because it provides them, people were getting this impression that when you are part of the European Unions, these countries are being helped with the other countries who are actually leading economically. So Poland then, of course, as a recipient of the European Unions, able to receive an amount of money to help their countries develop. And this attracted developers, skilled workers to work in Poland. That's why there was an influx in Poland at that time. Also, we have Dubai in Asia, right? So Dubai is basically just like a barren land, a deserted land. But then when they turn this land as a land of opportunity, then people get the idea and impression that there would be a lot of job opportunities, and it did, right? So there were a lot of people living in Dubai during the time of its constructions. Okay. Next, aside from socioeconomic factors, we have political factors. Now, civil war, example in the Darfur region of Sudan, can contribute to lower population densities as people become refugees and live in an area. Just like what I said, if the area is conflicted with rebellion, terrorism, or civil war, nobody would like to be to place themselves in the middle of war, right? So these are factors that contributes to these people to migrate from this place to the other. Say, for example, during the time where Syria is under attack by the ISIS, okay? Basically, the country is a target for retaliation, both parties to regain liberation of Syria. But people there are actually the casualties, right? So because they're in between of this war, and what they did is try to save themselves, move away from their country and try to have refuge or to seek refuge in the European continents, particularly in Spain, in Greece, and the rest of the story. Many of them actually did not survive while traveling or traversing in the seas. Others are actually captured. Others were brutally killed, so on and so forth. All right, so these are socioeconomic factors and political factors. Okay, next we have the causes of global population. Poverty. Now, poverty is believed to be the leading cause of overpopulation. A lack of educational resources coupled with high death rates leading to higher birth rates result in impoverished areas seeing large booms in population. So again, a country or a place that's having poverty issues causes global population. Of course, poverty is coupled with lack of education and resources. And what would normally happen based on results of the data presented is that people kept on reproducing, though they don't have much of resources to provide for the family. And these are actually facts coming from sources in a national level in the Philippines and also internationally from the UN. Okay, so poverty. Next, poor contraceptive use. Though the availability of contraceptives is widespread in developed countries, poor planning on both partners' parts can lead to unexpected pregnancies. Statistics have shown that the Great Britain, 76% of women aged between 16 and 49 use at least one form of contraceptive, leaving a quarter open to unexpected pregnancies. So again, it's not very alarming, no, when we talk about the usage of contraceptives in the Western world or in the Western part of this planet, because they are open to it. What is alarming is in countries that doesn't really open the idea of contraceptives because of culture, tradition, and religion. When the Philippines, though, the RH law is implemented a few years back, but yet the culture that is entrenched to its religion is causing a number of problems because of the idea that the idea and belief that using contraceptives is against their religion, against their faith, and that is one of the many reasons why we have surge of number of population and the pregnancy rate, especially in a time of pandemic. We have reports that at least 10 years old was the youngest in time of pandemic to get pregnant because of, again, lack of education and the stereotypes of using contraceptives because it's the value, the attitude of faith and religion. All right. And that's my phone, and that's Siri. Siri is actually receiving my voice right now, so Siri is trying to search for contraceptives. But anyways, again, poor contraceptive use is one of the many reasons why we have surge of population increase. Next, reduce mortality rates. Improvement in medical technology has led to lower mortality rates for many serious diseases, particularly dangerous viruses and ailments such as polio, smallpox, and measles have been practically eradicated by such advances. While this is positive news in many ways, of course, nobody wants to die with these viruses, it also means that people are living longer than before. This delay in the cycle of life and death has led to birth rates outstripping death rates by 2 to 1 in modern times. So again, it has a double-edged sword, right? Advancement of technology, especially in the medical field, has let people survive longer than before. But yet, because of the cycle of life and death, it also created an impact to the population of the world, which pushes our natural resources, especially food production, to its limit, and that causes another issues in our place, in our planet to be exact. Okay, especially with the climate change. Next, fertility treatment, though it only plays a minor role in comparison to other causes of overpopulation. Improved fertility treatments have made it possible for more people to have children. The number of women using various fertility treatments has been on the rise since their inception. Now, most have the option of conceiving children, even if they may not have been able to do so without such treatments. There are quite a lot of ways now to get or to conceive a child, right? If both partners could not really conceive at all, well, they can actually get special treatment, say for example, in vitro fertilization or surrogate mothers or parents, right? So they can get as much as that if they wanted to conceive. This is because of technology, the advancement of in the medical field, right? But also there are issues concerning now about the rate of fertility and the rate of number of population in most developed countries, because just like Japan, they are actually skipping the part of familyhood, meaning most of their young population there do not think of having family, of procreating. They are more into self-determination, that they won't want to separate from its traditional course, that when they grow up, they have to make and build a family. You know, most of the people there are actually delaying marriages and even conceiving children. And that's one of the problems of Japan that they are treating. Another also, they are having problems with death rates. That's why their populations are decreasing, especially in this time of pandemic, because of the rise of suicides. That's why Japan is planning to create a department or a bureau specifically for mental health because of this alarming problems in Japan, right? But not only in Japan, South Korea also have the same problems when we talk about suicide rates. If you're Korean fanatics, no, you have reached number of reports, especially for those popular K-pop or whatever kind of Korean actors and actresses they have there, who are actually committing suicides. Okay, in the Philippines as well, there were number of reasons to believe that we need to take a look on mental issues, because in the self pandemic we have reached numbers of reports that there are people committed suicide, especially young ones, because of depression and other kind of issues relating to mental health. Okay, so again, these are some of the factors that causes population surge. Another one, we have immigration. So unchecked immigration into countries may lead to overpopulation to the point where those countries no longer have the required resources for their population. This is particularly problematic in countries where immigration numbers far exceeded immigration numbers. Say, for example, the United States. During President Trump's campaign to his presidency, he emphasizes that they would close borders and would deport illegal immigrants in their country. It's because it causes problem economically and another issues concerning with migration. All right. So now, in some cases, immigrants may be attempting to escape overpopulation in their own countries, only to contribute to the same issues in the countries they move to. However, data also exists to show the immigration can bolster economies, with the effect in the UK being particularly pronounced. As long as policies and regulations are controlled properly, then immigration could actually help boosting the economy, especially for countries who doesn't have much of skilled workers. Then they would need a lot of people working from other countries to move into their countries to build and to help building the economies of these well-developed countries. All right. So the effects of overpopulation. One, we have lack of water. Didn't you know that at least 1% of drinkable water is all we have in this planet? And every time that we are not taking care of our environment, we are actually losing this valuable resource. Okay, so that is why there are places like in Africa, some parts of Asia doesn't really have water at all, and they are experiencing a lot of problems with drought and health-related issues because they don't have safe drinkable water. So again, overpopulation is a problem. And also, overpopulation causes another problem in the environment. So for example, India, right? India's drinkable water found to be very concerning because it has reports of feces. I mean, fecal bacteria that comes from the human. Because what they do in their urban places is that all of their drainage goes down to the rivers, and these people relies on the river for directly drinking the water and also converting these waters to go as tap waters in the houses. But they don't have that kind of materials or machines to filter it properly. So they are actually having problems with water. There was this incident, if I'm not mistaken, last December or November. At least a number of people in one area was confined in hospital because they were suffering nausea, and others were actually lost their consciousness because they found out that the water that they are drinking is contaminated with lead. So they have been poisoned with lead. Can you imagine if our drinkable water here, say for example in Caraga region, is inappropriately used by some of the industries like mining, could actually hamper our life, could actually threaten our life. So these are problems that we have to look into as part of the overpopulation problem. Okay. Another effect is lower life expectancy. Again, this is related to the problems with poverty, the problems with the access of resources, especially the basic basic ones, the food, the water. So if you don't have proper food hygiene because there's no water, if you don't have proper source of resources, naturally your health would decline. That's why in Africa, again, some countries there, the longest life expectancy that they could reach because of these problems with the resources is actually 47 for women and 45 with men. So mubura. Next, extinction. This is actually extinction with other living things. Overpopulation causes pressure to our natural resources, whether it be from fauna or from flora, right? So ang atong mga animals, ang atong mga precious plants, this is very threatened to the fact that numbers of these living things are actually extinct already. All right. Resource consumptions, like what I said, overpopulation consume more than its counterpart. Increased intensive farming. Of course, number of population causes people to do more farming because we needed food directly in our table. What would happen is that our land could not recuperate from the farming because we kept on planting right after harvesting, right? And faster climate change. No need to introduce what's happening with our planet because of climate change. So again, these are the effects of overpopulation. We've talked about population density and migration as a whole. And these are concerning discussions about population because we are affected to it, right? The Philippines is over 100 million people and our resources are depleting, and we are definitely affected with what's happening with our environment, not just here in our country, but as a whole, no, in our planet. The faster changes in our climate causes a lot of trouble. And the pandemic has brought a little relief, at least for a couple of months, for our planet. But as countries, as people tries to go back from what was normal, try to go back from our feet, we are now going again to continue destroying this planet. Well then, that's the end of our online sync for the places and landscapes. I hope you have learned a lot of things from this discussion and hope to see you next meeting that would be on Monday. So let me stop my sharing so we can end this one, and then all right, so if you have questions from this discussion, this will be uploaded in our YouTube channel. So just go ahead and write a comment below. I'll get to you soon as possible, right? Or just directly message me with my messenger and I'll get to you. Okay? All right, now, well, enjoy your holiday. Yeah. Have a good day. I'll see you.